Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We're back from our break, our salah, or if you're not in an area where you have salat al-maghrib, then you're back from exercising or doing your tasbih or whatnot. Okay, bismillah. So we stopped before going off on a tangent about the word yabisutu in Surah Al-Baqarah and the difference between the Uthmani script, basically those skeletal letters that are copies of a copy of what was written from Sallallahu, the difference between that and between the little things that were added later to aid in pronouncing. We looked at some examples, so now we're back to their slides and to our timeline. I mentioned this before, that different Arab tribes, because they had different accents and sometimes different tongues, or basically not just accents, but deeper than that, different word usages sometimes. They also had different spelling systems. And that was noticed by scholars in the Masahif al-Uthmaniyya, that it's not always the same spelling system. The same word could be spelled differently, although there's no effect whatsoever on its pronunciation. So that's not even included, wallahu a'lam, in the ahruf, because the ahruf that Ibn Jazari is talking about is different ways of pronouncing, different ways a word will sound, whether that sound makes a difference in meaning or not, whether that sound is only in harakat or in switching out letters or adding letters or subtracting letters or bringing words forward or backwards. What about words that are pronounced exactly the same way but are spelled differently? That was found in the Mushaf. And the scholars make educated guess of why, and their educated guess is because it was probably scribed by companions from different spelling systems. Wallahu a'lam. Again, there's that wallahu a'lam. We do not know, the scholars do not know the exact meaning or reason for why the same word, with no difference in pronunciation and definitely no difference in meaning, why would it be scribed sometimes differently? Here are some examples. Okay, for example, the word adda' and yamh and ayyuha. Ayyuha, everywhere in the Quran, is written with an alif after the ha, except in 3 ayahs. Why? How? Allahu a'lam. The best educated guess would be different spelling systems written by different Sahaba. Okay, Khadija, it's possible from the internet, if you can go in and come back out, especially if even one person can hear, it's probably with your device. Try leaving the Zoom and coming back in, inshallah. Brother Wadi, if you can type that for her, because if she can't hear me saying it is completely useless. Naam, jazakallah khair. The same thing about the word yamh. It's written yamh in one place in the Quran, and the rest is yamhu. And adda' is written without a ya, versus it could be recited as a da'i. Why? Allahu a'lam. But these are aspects that the scholars notice, and that's why we preserve the written format of the Quran as it was written in front of the Prophet ﷺ. More aspects are examples like the word tilqa, written with a ya form after the hamza, and sa'urikum, scribed with a waw after the hamza. The ya and waw are colored in red to bring that out. The most prominent opinion is that because there was no tashkil, like fatha, dhamma, kasra, or sukoon back then, sometimes these kasras or fathas or dhammas would be represented by the mother of a kasra, which is a ya, or the mother of a dhamma, which is the waw, and sometimes the mother of a fatha, which is an alif, like أَوْ لَأَذْبَحَنَّ, that has 2 alifs, one for the hamza and one for question mark, wallahu a'lam, possibly to represent the fatha. Tilqa'i, possibly this ya is representing that the hamza has a kasra. Sa'urikum, it's possible this waw is to represent that the hamza has a dhamma. That's one interpretation of why these words pronounced the same way have different representations. Another aspect which I do not have in the slides is that in some qira'at, these words that you see in front of you actually do have a different pronunciation if you stop on them. Oh, now we're going back to different representations, following different recitations and different pronunciations, keeping the meaning the same. So then it goes back to the ahruf. For example, in the qira'ah of Hamza, if you stop on the word sa'urikum, in some of the chains, not all of the chains of Hamza, in some of him, so Hamza is one of the 10 qira'at, stopping on the word sa'urikum could be pronounced sa'urikum, sa'u, not u. So it's a combo between a Hamza and a waw. So Imam Ad-Dani suggested that this could possibly be the other reasoning why there's a waw, to represent it, whether it's connected, sa'urikum, and have the same word written with an quote unquote additional waw to accommodate how it's pronounced if you stop on it, if you recite it in that way, which again, we're talking about the ahruf at the time of the Prophet ﷺ preserved through qira'at. So again, these are aspects scholars notice. This is how the masahif were scribed, all of them, okay, in certain words, and some of them, not all of them. So why are they? Is it part of the ahruf? Possibly. Is it part of a spelling system that does not change in its pronunciation? Also possible, okay? These might be a little bit too much of a detail, but it's important. It's important to understand that there are some questions regarding of how the words are scribed that the scholars specialize in this. I'm talking about the top scholars of the time of Ibn al-Jazari and before him. The best they can do is give an educated, it wouldn't be a guess, but the best educated answer as to why these aspects are there. Okay, Brother Wadi has a question, and he usually says question or su'al, but now he has istifham, so that's interesting. Okay, go ahead, Brother Wadi.
Jazakumullah khairan. For the first opinion or educated answer that was given is that this ya waw alif represents the haraka of the harf.
Yes.
Would this then support those who say that there were no harakat at that time?
There were no harakat at the time.
I mean, because like they didn't write them because there was no such thing.
When it comes to harakat, there's no disagreement between scholars. All of them agree there was no harakat. The dots that differentiate between ba, ta, and tha, for example, there's a slight disagreement if it existed or not. But when it comes to harakat, they all agree. Harakat were definitely invented by Khalil bin Ahmad al-Farahidi in the form that we know today. So how would they represent a hamza, for example, in tilqa'i, that did not have a form? Now remember, the hamza, the head of the ayn, that was also a later on invention. Just like that little scene you saw on top of the word wayabisutu, the hamza was added later at that same time, actually, by Khalil bin Ahmad al-Farahidi. So how would you pronounce a word min tilqa'i without that hamza? So some scholars say it's the ya is to indicate that the hamza has a kasra, and the waw in sa'urikum is the indicate that the hamza sound. So again, when I say hamza and we're talking about the manuscript, we're talking about the sound of the hamza represented by either the alif in sa'urikum or represented by nothing in tilqa'i. By nothing, I mean the hamza. Notice how the word tilqa'i is the hamza that we see in front of us is on the line. Basically, there's nothing holding it. There's no alif, waw, or ya holding it up. So that means it has no representation whatsoever. And the word sa'urikum, some scholars say that the alif after the sin is the representation of the hamza. Some scholars say no, the waw is actually the representation of the hamza and the alif is additional. There's much more to be said about the hamza. In the word sa'urikum, there's much more information that might be shared at the end of the course. If anyone's interested, take a note of the word sa'urikum, because there's just, there's a tie-in between it and the recitation of hamza. There's much more to be said. I just feel that right now isn't the right time, and possibly at the end of the course when everything is clear and all the qira'at and its relationship to the Rasm Uthmani and to the ahruf, when everything is inshallah in place, we can go back and revisit some examples inshallah. But remind me please.
And this is specific for just this, like they wouldn't write the ya after every hamza maksura.
Yeah, they wouldn't, and that's why it's befuddling. It's why, and that's why I started today's lesson by saying different tribes, based on their different accents, have different spelling systems, and that's the most probable reason we see that certain words are just spelled differently. It's the same word in a different ayah, but it's spelled differently in different places. Why? Although they're pronounced the same in general. Yeah. Yeah.
Different spelling systems.
Yeah. That's a strong opinion. That is an opinion out there.